Hey everybody, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. I'm Jim, and the vacant seat I had last week is now filled with my partner Steve.
Yes, it is. Welcome back, everybody.
We're twice as dangerous when we're both in the studio.
I think that's fair.
August 6th, 2021.
Yes, happy belated birthday, partner.
Ah, thank you.
Yes.
Share a birthday with Jerry Garcia, of course. So, Grateful Dead fans.
Very good.
Put that in their diary.
Jerome.
But it's great to have you back, Steve. Hope you had a great vacation, and let's move on. I'll hand you the mic. You have our opening monologue.
I do, and my monologue is, how about them Cowboys?
How about?
And the reason that I bring that up is Jimmy Johnson is being inducted tomorrow in the Hall of Fame. And I read a fun story. I was at the beach, and I'm going through. Jimmy Johnson got together with Dave Wannstedt. Tony Wise was the offensive line coach. Norv Turner, Troy Aikman, and Rich Dalrymple. And Rich Dalrymple at the time was the Cowboys PR guy. And they got together a couple weeks ago and had beers and pizza and chicken wings. And they were, celebrating Jimmy's induction. And they were just reminiscing about the Cowboys going to that championship game in San Francisco. And I found it so interesting, all the minute little details I found out about Jimmy Johnson prepping for that game, like going out on the field before, the day of, prior, the day of, and spotting spots on the field where the sod was replaced. So the Cowboys in that game, literally, Jimmy told the offensive coordinators and special teams, we're not running plays in this particular area. Little details like that. My point is, Jimmy Johnson was so intense that Jimmy Johnson admitted he couldn't celebrate those championships at the time because he was so intent, right, and intense. So what leads up to this famous "How about them Cowboys" speech is, so they're in the cramped San Francisco locker room. Rich Dalrymple, I mentioned him because CBS broadcast the game, and they wanted to bring in a film crew, and Rich Dalrymple didn't want to bring this up to Jimmy Johnson in the week prior to the game because, he would have said absolutely not. So the point is, the Cowboys win this game, right? After, again, you have to remember the 1-15 start 3-4 years ago,
yep.
And the culmination of this. So they get into the locker room. It's confined. It's cramped. Jimmy Johnson gets on this blue cooler or whatever it was, equipment thing, and spontaneously just mentions and blurts out, how about them Cowboys, right? And 30 years later, that phrase is so apropos. And now for the last 25 years of futility, people are turning it around and say, how about them Cowboys? Not in a positive way.
Right.
But I wanted to bring that up, Jimmy Johnson being inducted. I'm a huge Cowboy fan, and I just thought that was great. Yep. And that was the origin of how about them Cowboys.
I got you.
So congratulations to Jimmy Johnson, and football's right around the corner.
Absolutely.
So
actually, he was just, on the heels of his Hall of Fame induction, was finally selected for the Cowboys Ring of Fame as well, right?
But
well
Troy Aikman's going to induct him tomorrow.
I'm sure he was.
Which is cool.
Yep. The guy was an intense coach. There's no question about it. I mean, he came from Miami and was successful. And
I didn't like him at the time.
Of course not.
I didn't.
After what he did to our beloved Tom Landry.
Right, but it was the right move in retrospect.
Right.
And Jimmy Johnson is a great, great football coach, and it took a long time for me to acknowledge that.
And it's a crowded bus station at the Hall of Fame tomorrow. There's a lot of guys going in,
certainly.
right?
Yeah. Drew Pearson for me is another sentimental pick.
I think long overdue.
Yep.
Considering some of the other guys that have gotten in. But I think the marquee headliner is Peyton Manning tomorrow, right? And rightfully so.
Yeah,
right?
One of the all-time slam dunks.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know who's introducing him. Do you know? I don't
know.
I know Tom Brady's going to be in attendance. I guess Belichick gave him the day off to.
Maybe Tony Dungy would be a good guess for me.
But we had some emails from one of our listeners, James Smith, who mentioned Cliff Harris. Finally
it's
getting
another one.
in,
I was going to get to that. Right.
And listen, it's double the size because the year was canceled.
Correct. Correct.
But there's some really good guys going in the Hall of Fame. And I'm glad you brought Jimmy Johnson up. I didn't really like him. I'm still not a big fan of
I'm
his.
a big fan,
but
no.
I can't deny his resume, and I never will.
Yeah.
And congratulations to him.
And you know what a money whore Jimmy Johnson is. Even they're laughing around the lunch table. He's like, "Damn, we should have patented that. Could have made some money." Like you don't have enough money, Jimmy.
He could be on his boat and throw duffel bags full of money
There is no
overboard.
question.
And it wouldn't,
Right.
wouldn't dent his
But
budget.
he's earned every dollar.
Absolutely. So listen, let's say while we're here, let's our NFL segment is sponsored by Coriano Trucking, right? Loyal sponsor of the show, and we
Yeah.
thank them. And like I said, you want to go from point A to point B, you call a guy, and he'll take care of it.
Sure.
Staying with the NFL, how funny is this? Carson Wentz didn't even start a football game for the Colts, and he's injured already.
So now we know the Eagles will not have that first round pick already.
Right, that's an issue that came up.
And
right?
then ironically, Quentin Nelson, the All-Pro guard, who is one of just a handful of guys. to
Notre
start-
Dame kid,
Right,
right?
to start their career and be named first-team All-Pro in
Yeah.
his first 3 seasons, had the exact same foot injury this past week.
So he's missing 5 to 12
5
weeks.
to 12.
Right?
But Quentin Nelson's never missed a game. But Carson Wentz, what can you say? I
But
mean,
what's going to happen? Is it going to be Rivers or is it going to be Foles? Right? They can't go with the guys.
Can you
they
imagine
got.
if in
Jacob Eason is going to take these guys to the
how
promised
ironic
land?
would it be if they got to bring in Nick Foles?
I'm not ruling it out.
I'm not ruling it out either.
I'm not ruling out Phillip Rivers coming back too.
It could be.
I mean, those are the two choices.
But listen, Jacob Eason, if you go into the season with him, the kid's got to go trial by fire. We'll see.
Now this.
I
is-
don't see it happening, but we'll see. But
You
Carson Wentz, when I heard he got injured, are you surprised?
But they invested all of this thing. They let Rivers retire and knowing that they were going to go for Wentz, and now they got nothing.
But that's it's
football.
It's football.
I get it.
Exactly.
But Frank Reich likes Nick Foles, and he'll take Phillip Rivers back any day.
And one of my favorite stories of the week was reading about Daniel Jones being on the bottom of a pile up in practice.
The big
Oh
brouhaha
my
at Giants
God.
camp
And Coach Joe Judge just
went nuts.
went nuts. I'm a huge fan of this guy. I am becoming a big fan of
Me
Joe
too.
Judge.
I don't know if he
And
knows the X's and O's
I don't
like
care.
Tom Landry.
It's refreshing that he's holding players accountable.
I agree.
From Kelvin Benjamin coming in at
10 pounds overweight, cut.
goodbye, keep coming. Another guy quit.
Well, where did he get this coaching mentality
Well,
from?
we know
how about New England?
Yeah,
right?
well, we know that, but I find it refreshing, and I also find it actually stupid on the players' part that you would have Daniel Jones. I don't care how intense the practice is. I don't care how egregious somebody may have done something. You can't have your franchise quarterback sitting on the bottom of the
Okay,
bottom.
you can't control the
When's the
brawl.
last time you ever read about that? I've never read that before.
Because you can't control the brawl. You never know
I
how the
understand
dice
that.
are going to go,
But he put the hammer down.
All right. But I like him too. And James Wall sent us an email today about he's really liking it too.
Oh, yeah.
This is what the Giants needed. I don't know if they have the talent on paper.
Well, they have a lot of
and
talent
now
on paper
Saquon
now.
may or may not be back. I don't know.
They have a lot of talent on paper. They made all these off-season moves, so
Good wide receiver core for
Yeah,
sure.
well,
no doubt.
sure.
But who's going to protect Jones? That's the kick.
Well,
I still
Shane
think
Lemieux's already
they
hurt.
right. So he's hurt.
we shall
And that's
see.
why we should have got an offensive lineman in the draft, but we talked about that before. Couple other notes in the NFL before we move on. Nick Chubb, 3-year, $36 million contract. Is he a top 5 running back in this league?
Yeah.
He is?
Yep.
Going to take the Browns to the next level?
No, he's the number one back in Cleveland. I don't have an issue with that.
Top 5 in the league?
Top 10.
Top 10, yeah. I'll give you that. How about this contract bombshell? The Buffalo Bills signed
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, 6 years, $258 million.
No problem.
Me either. I told you I liked this guy from day one. We did.
It's the quarterback market.
But he hasn't proven himself. That's what's driving me crazy about you'll tell me right now, Jim, it's the market value. That's what quarterbacks get. And you're right. But it's a staggering amount
He's
of
gotten
money.
better every year.
No question about it. I'm
So?
a big fan of his.
I don't know what the...
But $250 million
that's the
worth?
market for the millionth
All right.
time.
I was going to stick with the market routine.
Well, it is.
I get it. So listen, preseason is underway. Your Cowboys didn't win last night, or you won last night?
Doesn't matter.
We don't watch preseason very much.
I snuck a peek. I like Micah Parsons is looking just fine out there.
As we discussed, he's going to be a stud for that
Yeah,
team.
you
no
can't
question.
you don't put any stock in that.
Yep. So let's move off the NFL and move into the Olympics. And I got to say, it's been pretty good.
Yeah?
It's been pretty good. 2 weeks in, I think its closing ceremonies are probably tomorrow. I thought it used to be 2 weeks. But there's a couple of things I got to bring this up first because, how intense was the track and field and the swimming and the U.S. dominated. But some of the funniest things I thought was race walking. I mean, it looks like a Charlie Chaplin film, watching the gold medal match in race walking. And I'm not diminishing it. I couldn't do it that fast, but it's kind of funny to look at.
It is.
And then from the obscure, rock climbing. It looks like you went to Sports World down the street and, you tie a harness to you and you climb rock.
Sure.
Olympic sport.
Apparently so.
Right.
Not my bag.
But I'm going to give a lot of credit, like we talked about last week, the gymnastics team and, the way things shifted when Simone stepped back. Swimming, this Caleb Dressel, this kid was
Had a
awesome.
Great Olympiad.
Awesome. But I tell you, I got a kick out of this rock climbing thing. I can't believe it's an Olympic sport.
I can't believe somebody can announce this too.
But here's another
He's
Olympic.
reaching into his pocket. He's
I felt the same way when I was
gonna put the
watching
hook and clamp on there.
when I was watching equestrian today. Jessica Springsteen, actually didn't fare well in the individual,
It's all
but in the
right.
team, they're going for the gold medal.
Going for the gold, Jerry.
So we can change the song to "Born to Ride."
We shall say. We shall say. Let
Born
her.
to Ride. I
yeah.
thought that was right.
Yeah.
But the biggest disappointment, right, in the Olympics was the men's track team and the 4x100. They just couldn't hand this thing off. I mean, how many times did you practice this? And they just couldn't get it
One of those
done.
things. What can I say?
So who, of course, jumped in and made some comments was Carl Lewis, right? Most decorated track guy,
Yeah.
and
Who's got more credibility than him?
But I want to give a shout out to this Allison Felix, 35 years
Yeah.
old. It's like her fourth Olympics,
Yeah.
and
She's
I
like
got
a Jackie Joyner Kersey back
exactly
in the day.
right.
but,
Not
you
as
know.
flashy as FloJo,
But hey, all the credit in the world. 35 years old, competing.
and won a bronze medal. And
Nothing wrong with
It
that.
was awesome.
Nothing wrong with that.
These track stars are fast.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And how about this? The Olympics in pole vault. We saw a gold medal, right?
Yeah.
Which is unusual. Shot put. 2 years running.
Pole vault, my favorite still, Sergio Bubka.
I couldn't get over 2 feet 8 inches with a pole
Are you
vault.
kidding?
I tried it once in high school.
Yeah, sure you did.
Exactly.
Right. Running down with a ladder.
Exactly. And high jump, I couldn't do
Forget
the thing.
about it.
But that was a good moment in the high jump when these guys, they're like best friends. They tied. It was good.
I was blessed with some pretty good athletic ability, but pole vaulting it was not in the
Me too.
in the mix.
I'm not a hammer throw guy. But give these guys credit. But here's a moment that I watched this morning, and I saw this, and it was funny because it was the 4-man kayak thing. And these were the most powerful looking kids.
Yeah.
And they were all Hollywood type gorgeous. I go, oh my God. And they could take a kayak with 4 people and get from point A to point B.
Right, they
and-
can
and
navigate the Indian Ocean if they wanted
But,
to.
why these guys aren't rugby players or anything, but you want to talk about athletic. That really blew me away. This Caleb Dressel was certainly, a chisel-type body, but I watched these 4-man kayaks, and it was amazing.
Sure.
Every team had 4 guys on it that could bend steel,
Right.
in their bare hands.
Yeah.
It was great. But listen, it was great Olympics, right? There was no fans. It was different, but I kind of enjoyed it. I watched more than I have, I mentioned this last week, since you and I watched in '76. We couldn't open up a textbook to do homework while the Olympics were on, right?
Sure.
It was fun. So
Tokyo pulled it off, and
they did. It was hot.
not a lot of incidents of COVID or anything. So they the games went off.
There were incidents of COVID.
Yeah, but
you
not
know.
to the extent that
Right. Some athlete got it and got knocked out of the gold
halfway
medal.
through the games, they would have to pull the plug type of thing.
I got you.
So they pulled it off, and
Yep.
yeah, it's good.
And the women's soccer won the bronze.
Yeah.
Right. And the men's,
I don't think we're getting the team total in gold medals. I think we'll fall short a little bit.
but the men will win the basketball championship. They're not going to lose to France twice, and they're playing them in the finals, I guess, tomorrow or something.
Well,
But how about the baseball team, right? How about
Sure.
that?
Not
That's
bad.
pretty good,
Sure.
right? Playing for the gold medal tomorrow morning at 6:30, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
That's a surprise to me, to be quite honest. They kind of patchworked that team together, and
rooting for them.
yeah, me too. So let's move on, Steve, to the NBA. Season's over, we get it, but we knew this free agent
Well,
thing
let
was...
me just say one thing, please. I knew we were doing the show today, and again, we're broadcasting Friday as opposed to
Yep.
Saturday. But the news that came out 2 days ago, my first thought was, I wonder when Jim is going to mention the 4-year, $215 million extension for Stephen Curry.
I was getting to it.
All right, and the
Yep.
reason I bring it up is because then you were going to say, "Where is all this money coming from?"
That would have been my monologue if I had it this week, because I'm perplexed by it. But that's one instance.
That's our first 50 million plus.
Right. First time a guy's gotten two $200 million contracts. I like Steph Curry. I've always liked him. If they're giving that kind of money away, he deserves
Why?
it.
I'm a Steph fan myself.
But here was the one point, and I was watching this closely. The Phoenix Suns, right? Chris Paul, and then he had an option year for $44 million. And I said, of course he's going back to the Suns. It turns out he declines the options. They immediately put a 4-year, $120 million contract. Great business move. I don't think it's still going to get him a championship, but when he turned down $44 million, I said, you got to be crazy. And then he turns around and his agent was...
State Farm doesn't just hire anybody to represent their brand.
Yeah.
Chris Paul's a smart guy.
Right.
Not surprised he's back in Phoenix.
But I just said, you turned down $44 million? Well, if you got an option for... How about this? Kemba Walker coming to the Knicks. How about his agent for Agent of the Year?
Yeah.
Gets a buyout of $75 million just to go away.
Yeah.
And now he's going to get at least what? If Julius Randle's getting $25 million, then he's getting $28 million?
I don't know what he's going to get.
He's getting $20 million
He's
plus.
got a bad knee.
He's got a bad attitude. He's got a lot of things.
No, listen,
wrong with him.
Kemba Walker. Kemba Walker's not a bad guy.
They couldn't stand him in Boston.
No,
They
it's
couldn't
his
stand him
knee.
in Oklahoma
No.
City.
No, he's got a bad knee.
Okay.
Listen, they got nothing to lose by signing him. I think the Knicks.
They're signing everybody.
Right.
These guys. I mean, Fournier.
I think
gets
what
money.
they're doing though is they know they're 2 years out, 2 maybe 3 to landing a LeBron type, a Steph type.
That's wearing down.
They
Look.
don't have that number one guy. So no matter how they improve the team, they're always going to face the Bucks with a number one guy, Giannis. They're going to face with a
Joel
number one
Embiid,
guy,
you know.
right, and on. Butler with Miami,
Who
and
just
on-
up with the Heat.
Right, but the Knicks don't have that number one guy, right? Now the Julius contract, I think, is more than fair.
Because he had, what, one good year?
He's 26 years old. They're signing him for 4 years, 126. And you compare it to a $50 million Steph Curry, a Chris Paul. Not that he's in. I'm just saying.
I'm going to blow your
I
mind.
think the Knicks deal for Randall was market value.
No, there's no question about it. I don't have a problem
No
with
problem
it.
with it being the 2 or 3 guy.
But they're getting this kind of money. And to my point, when I keep bringing this up, how about a guy named Gilgeous Alexander? 5 years, $172 million. Who? And we're sports guys. Have you seen this guy? And they're signing. It's not just him. That's a poster child for me. There's 100 other guys. You see the names, you go, wait a minute.
I understand.
And you do the math. It says 3 years, 80 million.
Yeah.
You go,
4 years, yeah.
For who?
Evan Fournier on the next now.
then what is
4
LeBron
years,
James worth? What's
76
Giannis worth? What are these guys? Are they going to be making
$50 million.
100 million in,
No,
in 3
50.
years?
Now 51, 52.
Yeah, it's going up. It's going
Well,
up
it's
faster.
there.
But
Steph just signed it.
But that's why people can't take their wife and 2 kids to a basketball game because somebody's got to pay this bill.
I don't care who's paying
Ugh.
it. I know I'm not paying it.
I'm not paying it either, but I'm saying it's beating up Americana. That used to be, we love this shit. I'm sorry about that. Retraction.
But when you think about the Curry contract, think about his jersey sales, his sneakers.
I get
sales.
it. I don't have
That's
a problem
where-
with it.
but
I just have a problem with
that's
the
a
number.
huge part of it. Think about that, the money that's generated
I get
on
it.
top of the TV. So just jersey sales and his sneakers. Golden State is getting money for that,
I get it.
right? And right then and there, that kind of pays the salary.
But how many people are going to buy a Gilgeous Alexander jersey? I mean, how many?
His family and friends.
You can't keep Steph Curry. Okay, well, how many is that? Is it
That's
Steph
not our
Curry
problem.
audience?
That I don't care about.
I'm just not gonna. I'm not gonna contribute to this. It's just out of control.
Right.
It's out of control. Let's move
I
on.
bet it's a sweet jersey, though.
It feels perfect. You look like Steph. But anyway, so let's move on to the Major League Baseball, and I wanted to bring. We had I talked about it last week, and while you were out. A lot of trades, fire sales, right? The Nats, fire
Yeah.
sale. The Cubs, fire sale.
No, Cubs fire sale.
Right, and we got a good first baseman. And I was laughing when I saw it because I know you're a big Luke Voigt fan.
I'm a fan of Luke Voigt, but
he should start packing his bags right now.
he shouldn't start.
Where are you gonna put him?
His bags are packed.
That's what I'm talking
He's
about.
Wally Pipp. But if you think about it,
He's Joe Charbonneau.
These are premium jobs, man. And Luke, you've been on the DL 3 times this year.
Mm-hmm.
You were on the DL last year. Great personality.
Thought he was untouchable.
Likeable. Led the league in home runs last year.
Oh, come on, it's 50-game season.
Of course, but the point is he's still, right, he's a serviceable, likable player. Anthony Rizzo, you're starting. Luke, I don't know what to tell you.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so you
Great.
lost your job. It's that simple.
Great pickup for the Yankees. And,
Great.
And Joey Gallo, and I'll give you kudos, Steve,
Yeah.
because you saw this 3.5 weeks ago, and I said, I don't know, is he a fit?
And I tell you,
He's a fit, because you
better
know what they
believe
gave
it.
up?
Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing.
And when you watch Joey Gallo, you see this energy.
I know.
He's 27 years old.
Hit his first home run for the Yanks, got it out of
and
the
he's
way.
a Gold Glove. He runs the bases well. He's an all-around good player, and I'm a fan of this move. Now, Cashman, listen, we were killing him. Every Yankee fan was. But he did a good job here. I think Anthony Rizzo would be nuts not to sign with the Yankees.
And I would have thought they would have had to given up Torres or somebody to get a Gallo or a Rizzo, and they gave up.
They gave up
nothing.
prospects. We don't know if they.
Okay.
But that's the thing about a prospect. You don't know,
Yeah.
right?
How happy is Rizzo to be a New York Yankee?
Yeah.
The guy's
Right.
he's from New York.
Right.
It's crazy.
So, the Chicago Cubs, again, to their credit, Theo's gone. They the GOAT, it's over. They got the championship with
Yeah.
those core players, and they're breaking it down, and they did. Brick by brick by brick. And now they start all over.
And they got some
Okay?
young talent.
And-
I like this kid Greg Allen.
Right, and
you know?
the kid on who's running Chicago is the Theo protege.
Yeah.
So they'll be they'll be fine. But you talk about a garage sale, man,
Wow.
and getting some bargains. Rizzo from there.
Mets get Baez.
Kimbrel to the White
But who
Sox.
cleaned up was the Dodgers.
Chris Bryant to the Giants.
Right, but the Dodgers get Scherzer and Trey Turner?
Yeah,
I mean, the rich get richer
I listened
here.
to your show last week, and you mentioned Trey Turner. That is a head scratcher. I don't know why Washington wanted to
Unload him.
I think he's a
Because they're going to have to sign him to a Harper type
I mean,
contract. I guess.
who was that? Corey Seager. I mean, he's hurt out for the year, basically. He's their guy. But maybe Seager is hurt enough that.
And with Scherzer to the Dodgers, they can't be beat. They will repeat as well.
I don't know about that. Max Scherzer is still Max.
I'm going on record as saying
Listen,
that.
he's going to the Hall of Fame.
No
There's
question.
Great move, but is Max Scherzer still? We'll see.
Struck out 10 in his debut.
Well, San Francisco and San Diego, that is.
Yep.
They're two formidable teams, man.
If Tatis doesn't come back, then you can scratch San Diego
Right,
off.
but the
San
Giants
Francisco,
and getting Chris Bryant,
Yep.
that was a big move.
Yeah, the Mets getting Javi Baez. I mean, they're struggling now, but
Mets getting Javi Baez. Yeah, he's a nice player, but it didn't overwhelm me. I thought the Mets should have made the Chris Bryant move. Personally,
Right.
I thought it was.
and the Red Sox
I
should have
pegged
made
that at 80%.
And the Red Sox should have made the Anthony Rizzo move.
Well, the Red Sox countered it, and
With Schwarber, though, he hasn't even been on the field yet.
that's
I
fine.
think,
But they countered it, and Schwarber, obviously is another guy. The Cubs let go a year or two prior, but
Yep.
yeah, we shall see.
Let's
but
see
the
how-
Yankees improved themselves.
They did.
There's no question.
And I know I'm on record, Steve, as saying the Yanks are going to win 98 games, and you challenge me. I'm saying, well, these two trades,
They're not winning 98 games.
I'm
with this
still
trade.
optimistic. That's what I'm saying.
They're not coming close to 98.
So they're not making the playoffs. Is that what
Of
you're
course
saying?
they're making the playoffs because of this stupid wild card.
Right, but
they're
there's
only
still-
like 2 out if something. Of course they're making the playoffs. They're not winning the division like they should.
They gotta win 98
by 8
games.
like they're supposed to be the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
With this roster and payroll. That's my point.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're making the playoffs. And if Kluber and Severino, and that's a big if, 10% chance.
I don't think
he
Kluber's
comes
coming back.
I think both of them are going to come back, and I think they'll be back by September. And if these two actually are healthy, then that's good.
Kluber's not the guy he once was when he won 2 Cy Youngs.
Right.
He's
He only,
not the guy.
he only threw a no-hitter.
I get it, but
Right.
he's
Okay.
something
He
more.
threw a no-hitter.
All right, we'll see. Listen, in Major League Baseball, here's a milestone we're approaching. Who's the next guy who's going to break the 500 home run barrier in Major League Baseball?
Top of my head. Next guy.
Yep.
5.
And he's probably going to do it within a week.
Uh,
He's going to the Hall of Fame. Miguel Cabrera,
yeah. Okay.
Detroit.
Yeah.
He's got 498.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hall of Fame.
He's going to join the only 27 other members of
Okay.
the 500 club. I thought this guy's handled himself very nicely during his career.
Yeah.
And he's going to end up with 3,000 hits. He's closing in on that,
Yeah,
too.
listen, he's a great ball player.
Yeah.
Right? He was originally a Marlin, right? He was. And he kind of was like a head case early on. He had a couple like temper issues or something like that.
Is that right? I didn't know
yeah.
that.
But then he settled down, got traded to Detroit, and yeah, he's had an Al Kaline career.
Yes.
He's Hall of Fame bound.
Definitely.
Yeah, I blanked on it, but
But he's going to retire with...
but I knew he was approaching.
But he's going to retire with 500 home runs and 3,000 hits.
Yeah, he'll play another 2 years. I say he finishes 530.
Yeah, but I'm
540.
saying he's going to break the milestone. He's
Oh,
going to break the
absolutely.
mark.
Now after that, I don't know who's up next. It's kind of the same thing, probably with the 300 win club.
Yep. I don't think anybody.
We thought CC was going to be the for the 300 club.
We did.
And I don't think there's ever going to be a 300.
That's a
winner.
tough milestone to reach in today's
We'll look
game,
that up
you
and
know.
bring it up for next week's
Yeah.
show.
But hey, Miguel Cabrera, he's going to the Hall of Fame.
There's no question.
Won a Triple Crown.
Totally.
Right?
The guy
So
was batting like 360, 350, 340.
his Triple Crown year was awesome. That's a rarity in Major League Baseball. So let's move on, Steve. Our next segment is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. And again, we appreciate and love the loyalty of our sponsors, and hope all is well up there in Manchester. Need a Toyota? You go to Mike Lynch.
You go to Manchester. Come on.
So this segment is our points of interest, right? We covered some specific topics, but Quinn Evers is going to the Ohio State. Ewers, I guess, is the proper pronunciation. I talked about it last week. Was he going to stay in high school or go make millions of dollars? Guess what they chose? Millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars.
Yep. That's the nil. We talked about it, right?
What's there to choose?
What, winning a state championship in Texas isn't?
Yeah, that's
doesn't mean more than $3 million.
Yeah, if you watch Friday Night Lights, that type of thing,
Yeah.
you can get the feel for the Texas,
Yeah.
whether it's basketball, football. I'll go with the millions, though, if that's me.
Me too. Me too. Good for him. Good
I
luck.
wore
to
a
him.
varsity jacket. I felt pretty cool.
I didn't get one. I was afraid to wear one. I would
really?
friend my other friends that consider me a jock.
Kidding me?
Something, you know.
I go to a party and see the Bergen guy with his jacket
Oh,
on.
you were the quarterback. You were signing autographs at the keg.
Oh my
you know?
God! I wish I had name, likeness, image rights back then.
Exactly. Right, I wouldn't have got one. The only legacy I got was in the newspaper was your sophomore year starting quarterback, blow away St. Anthony's from Long Island, and in the newspaper it said Jim, Steve's brother. I was the senior.
Well, the good news is we're now mono.
I
and
was
mono.
passed over, Mike.
We're mono and mono.
Exactly. But, hey, you earned it. You earned the headlines. Next point of interest. Quentin Hillsman, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, the women's basketball coach at Syracuse.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a list of laundry that was dirtier than, a pair of socks you wore on a camping trip.
Yeah.
Finally resigned. That means the walls are closing in,
Good.
kind of a Cuomo thing, right?
Very good.
And it took years, but he had finally
He
stepped
had to
aside.
go. He had to go.
Right. When it came up, you said, "Oh, everybody's transferring
But,
out of
but
this."
really, I mean, it's very hard to kind of believe, I guess, that it.
I don't think
No,
so.
that it's taken this long. As
Agreed.
this has gone on year
Exactly.
after year after year.
But that
after
shows
year.
how powerful a coach, right? They
And
wanted to get
also-
rid of Bobby Knight for 10
But
years.
it's more. I think it's more on the athletic director and the blind eye thing.
Yeah.
And I find that discouraging.
But hey, listen, there's too many fingers pointing at you. I'm glad you resigned. Good riddance. And
Right.
your career is besmudged.
Right.
Right?
Right.
How about this guy Rocker? And you and I watched some college baseball in the World Series.
Yeah.
Right, drafted, kind of looked like, oh my God, he slipped to the Mets at 10, and they didn't sign him. What do you think of that? What's behind
I have
that,
a lot of
actually?
thoughts on that, actually. Obviously, Kamar Rocker, we talked about it. 2 years ago, they win it, blah, blah, blah. Jack Leiter, blah, blah, blah. I immediately, when I saw that he fell to 10, I knew there had to be something medical. Not to this extent, but the Mets getting it at 10. And as I'm driving down to the Jersey Shore, I actually texted my coworker, Frankie, who's a diehard Met fan. And I said, "You're kidding, right, about Rocker?" And he said, "The Mets are such a joke. What could I say?" The fact is, they decided not to sign this guy.
But there's got to be a reason
Because
behind
of the
it.
medical, but why draft him in the first place? At number 10, okay? Number 10.
Baseball. You can get
But-
a Cy Young winner.
No,
in the
but
23rd
here's the
round,
unfair part about this. Kumar Rocker is not free to sign with anybody in the major leagues because the Mets declined to
So
sign.
they own his rights? Is that what we're saying?
Not that they own his rights, but he's not free to sign with anybody else,
Okay.
which is complete nonsense. That a team can't scoop in and say, "I'll take you. Go get the Tommy John. Go get whatever you need
We'll
to
give you
do."
a 3-year vacation.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. If you come back strong at 24 years old,
Yeah, I don't
that's
know.
a flaw in the system. And the other flaw is that because the Mets are not signing him, they still get the number 10 pick next year.
Yeah.
I think that has to be addressed. I think Major League Baseball will address it. I think it's completely unfair to Kumar Rocker or any kid that gets drafted by that team, and that team says, "You know what? We're not signing you."
Right.
And you don't have the right to sign with another team.
Unless his shoulder was so blown out he couldn't
doesn't-
couldn't even sign
Even
the
if
contract.
it wasn't, a team wants to take a chance on him, right? And pay
So
him.
you're saying he should go back into the pool? It's the whole
Yeah.
story about you get.
I think he should become a free agent.
Right, but if you get drafted in college, your options are
He's
go
out of
back to
college
school.
now.
out of college. He's got a degree in his pocket.
No, the point is he's not going back to college, whether he has the degree or not. That's not an option for him. The option is the Mets chose to draft him. Then they say, we're not going to sign you.
So how long do they own his rights
So
for?
why shouldn't any other Major League Baseball team want to take a flyer on
It's got to be after a year. Anybody
And you know who his
can sign
agent
him.
is? Scott Boros.
Right. But it's got to be after a year. Anybody can sign him. You can't hold him, forever.
The Mets just decided not to sign him after drafting him 3 weeks ago. Why can't any team then, as soon as the Mets said, we're not signing you, 5 seconds later, any other Major League team
Yeah, I get it.
go into a bidding war and say, you know what? Go get yourself fixed. You've proven yourself.
Yeah.
He was going to be the number 1 overall, but obviously there's an arm problem.
But eventually,
And it
he'll
can be fixed, apparently.
Eventually, surgically, anything can be fixed, and he'll be
Again,
in the major
there's
leagues.
I'm not saying,
I got
I'm
you.
just saying I think it's inherently unfair that this kid doesn't
Yeah.
have that chance to sign.
But he'll be in the major leagues at some point because medically
You
they
don't
can
know
do anything.
at this point, yeah.
Right?
Chances are by 24, 25.
How about this little point, Steve? And we didn't touch on the NHL because it's off season. How'd this Evander Kane thing going on? This is like Pete Rose thing all over the place.
Oh,
right?
disgruntled wife. Oh, he's betting on games.
Bitter,
Yeah.
But they get his tax returns. He owes Vegas. He's got Pete Rose syndrome, right?
Listen, Evander.
And we want to think this has never been an issue.
No, but
in
this Evander Kane, when I found out it was him, he doesn't exactly have a stellar character resume.
Okay, but
Okay.
this is big. This is bigger
Oh,
than
I'm not
just
diminishing it. My point is,
sleeping on the job.
I'm not surprised that Evander Kane's name is associated with it.
I had no idea. I mean, I didn't watch. I knew about him, but I never saw him play a lot. Scored 22 goals last year, so
I'm more interested in the off-season acquisitions and free agency in the NHL. I love what Drury's done with the Rangers. I love the beef on the D line. Patrick Nemeth, 6'3", Jared Tenorti, bruiser, defenseman.
yep.
We are going to be one tough. And we signed Ryan Reeves, who was the enforcer for the Vegas Knights under Gallant.
Okay.
The point is, the Rangers will not be pushed around. And guess who we open up with on opening night? Mr. Wilson and company.
Okay.
Now, the point is, and we're still in the Eichel sweepstakes.
But I just hope this Evander Kane thing is not as prevalent as it was with the Pete Rose thing. It could be big, Steve. I mean, guys betting on games.
It's Evander Kane betting on games.
Okay, but you know,
Okay? Goodbye, Evander Kane.
exactly. Take the Trevor Bauer train out of Dodge.
If there's
into
multiple
retirement.
players doing this, then I'll equate it to Pete Rose.
Yeah.
It's Evander Kane.
Okay, but
Goodbye.
It still could possibly taint the sport. That's
It
what
has
I'm saying.
tainted the sport.
That's
And it
my
will
point.
be dealt with, and you'll never hear from Evander Kane again.
All right. So listen, quickly we move through our points of interest. Miles Brennan, LSU quarterback,
Yeah.
out for the year.
Okay.
Right. So
It happens.
right, surgery, whatever. So they got to change.
I'm sure Coach Orgeron has at least 4 other nice candidates backing him up down there in the bayou.
Of course he does.
You
But
better believe it, we're LSU.
I don't know how that guy is dodging the prosecution of. He's got a resume that just stinks. Mario Cuomo resume.
Nah.
He's a good coach,
I
but he
don't-
turned the blind eye on this LSU,
No.
harassment thing. He did. He
Les
turned,
Miles was
and he's paying the price for
no,
his career.
no.
Orgeron's going to pay the same
I
price.
am not putting Ed Orgeron in Les Miles.
You can't put him on a
territory.
pedestal. 'cause
I'm
he
not
won a
putting him
champ-
on a pedal. I've mentioned, of course, he's turning a blind eye. He's probably the highest paid guy.
Well, don't you
in
got to
the-
take the fall for that? Then?
take what for? He inherited a lot of this stuff.
No, this happened under his watch. He's been there for a while. He was a coach before
I
he was
get.
the head coach.
Listen, I get it. He had Jarius Geis or Darius Geis and these other
Who was vindicated, by the way.
thugs. Nothing but thugs.
He was vindicated.
But each program around the country has thugs.
Except who? Alabama. Either they got a better PR department, but Ed Orgeron is going to go down for his blind eye to what went on.
You obviously don't understand how powerful I am, then, Jim.
And I'm purposely going to give you the and not do my better Ed
Oh,
Orgeron.
please, go right ahead.
So I'm going to move on real quick. On the heels of all of this, Oklahoma and Texas winning the SEC, now the Big 12 and the Pac-12 are having
I
conversations.
already mentioned it 2 weeks ago.
And we talked about it's going to transform the structure of
It
college
is.
football.
It's going to be like 3 conferences
Yep,
with 98 teams in each.
I know. And how about this? Notre Dame is not going to be on NBC, their opening game. You got to pay to watch it on Peacock. This
Yeah.
Peacock is, right? So I thought that was interesting. Notre Dame, home games, Channel 4, every
Then
week.
fine, I'll pay for my pint of Harp Ale at a local bar and let them pay for it.
I know, but it's come to that point. We're going to be paying to watch the World Series, the Super Bowl, the national championship game. It's coming.
Of course it's coming. It's
crazy.
here.
But here, Steve, our resident soccer expert here, Lionel Messi,
Yes.
big news,
Huge news.
right? Not returning to Barcelona
Not because he doesn't want to.
because there's financial issues.
Yes.
And the owner of the Barcelona team said there's not one player that's bigger than the team. In this case, I couldn't disagree more.
I agree.
They're going to lose a ton of money with this guy. And
can't-
we thought Josh Allen's contract was worth money. How about this guy, Messi?
But again, I know, I mentioned it. Obviously, I brought up Messi about a month ago. I don't know anything about the management of the league, this, that, and the other thing. But what I did infer about Barcelona and I guess how it's run is you got to follow the rules and the money and all this other stuff.
Well, there's no rules violation.
No,
here.
not at all. I'm just saying they can't afford them, apparently.
I know.
Why? How? Diego, perhaps you can
Chime in.
chime in.
Yeah.
But I don't. What does that mean? Where's he going? I have no idea.
Somewhere. He's
Or-
going to get a bigger contract than even Barcelona
Right.
offered him.
So maybe Messi will say, you know what? You don't have to pay me $500 million. I can get by on $300. I think.
He could be the first billion-dollar sports athlete ever to sign a contract.
The money is.
But you brought him up.
We bring up Steph Curry like we're mind blowing.
Exactly.
4-year, 215.
This is petty. This is petty
This is
cash
nothing.
compared to that.
Exactly.
Right? So, Steve, let's move on to our notable passings. And I want to start off with something I was negligent last week because I meant to bring it up. It's something you and I experienced when we first heard it, and it happened on August 2nd, 1979. I meant to bring up Thurman Munson's passing. And I tell you, it was, for a Yankee fan, it was bone-crushing. But I neglected to bring it up last week. I want to bring it up again and say this was big. And I don't think there was another incident of a major league sports figure besides since Kobe Bryant, right? That was very similar.
Yeah.
But Thurman Munson to us in 1979 was everything.
Right.
We loved it, and he was part of 2 world championship teams. And I meant to bring it up, but I wanted to give that shout
Thurman
out.
Munson is my favorite baseball player of all time. And I was 14 years old. It was actually with my brother Tom, and we were driving to Wayne, New Jersey, and WNEW was on the radio.
Scott Muni.
Scott Muni. He broke in, interrupted a song, and mentioned, bad news, about Thurman Munson. And my brother and I looked at each other. We were thankfully, 150 yards from a parking lot where we were going.
Pulled over,
And we just stunned.
Right.
Absolutely.
It was stunning.
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 Because I remember Thurman, he was 32. I remember they played at Comiskey Park 2 nights prior. Thurman actually played right field because his knees were killing him, right? And then there was talk this was going to be his last year as a Yankee. He wanted to get traded to the Indians.
So he could keep his family.
Because he
was
lived
there.
in Canton, Ohio, and this, that, and the other. And he had an off day, and and he was, he was learning how to fly. He's been doing it for a while, and he was almost there. Bobby Mercer was his best friend. Bobby Mercer got reacquired, right, a few weeks prior. He asked Bobby Mercer if he wanted to go, with him on the off day. Bobby
Declined.
And then, of course, you remember the funeral, right? The Monday night game to follow.
And they all came back and played
They
that
all
night.
played that Monday night game.
And who had the game-winning hit?
Right. Bobby Mercer.
Bobby Mercer.
And the Yankees were losing, I think, 4-1. Bobby Mercer had a hit prior to driving runs, had the game-winning hit. But then I saw an interview with Tippy Martinez a couple years ago. Tippy Martinez was a original Yankee. He was part of the Scott McGregor deal.
Right.
L. Rod Hendricks.
Had a good career for the
Dempsey.
Orioles, no question.
But the question was, Tippy Martinez was famous for his curveball and slider and all that. But he grooved this one. And the question was, Tippy Martinez played with Thurman Munson. Tippy Martinez knew the moment.
Did he throw him
Did
a
he
meatball?
Did he groove one?
I don't think so.
Yes, he did.
I don't think Earl
Tippy-
Weaver ever would have allowed
No,
Tippy
let's just say
Martinez.
Tippy Martinez winked.
I disagree.
And you know what? I think that's awesome.
It was a great story to a
It is.
tragic ending.
No,
I
but
mean, it was.
if Tippy Martinez didn't play for the Yankees and had Thurman Munson,
Yep.
ties.
Battery mate for.
Yeah.
Right? I know. I
Right.
get it.
But I'll never forget that and that notable passing on August 2nd, 1979.
Resonates for us
Every
as
year.
Monahan. It's just-
Absolutely.
It'll never go
I have
away.
my Thurman jersey hanging up and
Yep.
2 doors down from our studio.
and I meant to bring it up last week, folks. So.
Yep.
And another major league.
And my Yankee jersey with Thurman has the 1976 patch on it, which that jersey is a classic because that was the...
They lost 4 in a row to the Reds.
Well, that was
in
the open-
76.
Right, but that was the opening of the new stadium.
Yep. The renovated stadium.
The renovated
actually,
stadium.
Right.
Who hit the first home run in the new Yankee Stadium?
I'm going to throw it out.
Disco Danny Ford of the Minnesota Twins.
I wouldn't have got that. I wouldn't have got Disco Dan. Anyway, one other guy, J.R. Richard.
Yeah, yesterday.
Exactly. 71 years old. And I heard some interesting things. There were 2 major leaguers that we respect, Joe Morgan
Oh, yeah.
and Keith Hernandez,
Yeah.
saying this guy had some of the best stuff in the game.
And being 6
And he
foot
was
8.
and he was pitching in the area of the Steve Carltons and all the great players. Those were 2 comments that resonated with me.
He was 6 foot 8,
Exactly.
right? I remember him.
Record was 107 and
And
71, I think, right?
Very good. I remember him specifically wearing that orange Astro hat,
Yeah,
right? At
yeah.
the time. 6 foot 8, blistering fastball.
Yep.
And then you hear the guy had a stroke, man.
Exactly.
As a player.
And he lived 41 years
And-
after that.
And then he
you know.
lived for 40 plus years later. And I was sad to hear that he passed.
But he was as good as it gets in his prime. And
Would have been a Hall of Famer.
for Joe Morgan
Of
to say
course.
that,
And Hernandez.
is big.
He would have been a Hall of Famer. The numbers just don't. He didn't play long.
Yeah. But he was 71, but he was made a mark.
Yeah, no question.
Made to wear the most ridiculous uniforms, besides the softball uniforms of the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, and the shorts. Those are the most.
Disco night.
That was the most ridiculous thing ever.
But anyway, listen, thanks for joining us, everybody. And Steve, great to have you back.
Yep, glad
We'd
to be
love to
back.
hear from you folks, so please send us an email at sportswithmono@mono.com. And
I just want to do a quick shout out.
go ahead.
My daughter Emily, last Friday night when I started vacation, was the lead singer in Les Miserables.
Wow.
It was a summertime performance outdoor, and let me tell you, she,
Nailed it.
oh my God, knocked it out of the park.
She's going to be a professional actress someday, without question.
And let me tell you something, I'm proud of you, and I love you, and I wanted to shout that out to you, Emily.
Very good. Good note to
Outstanding.
end on the show.
Yes.
And we'll talk to you guys next week. Tomorrow's the Whitney Stakes up in Saratoga.
You're going, aren't you?
And I'm going. I'll fill you in when I get back, folks. Talk to you next week.
Bye.
Be good.